Today we'll be learning about John Greene, the author. He was born in August 24th, 1977 in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's a YouTube vlogger with his brother. They created Crash Course. It helps with certain subjects like chemistry, science, and history. John Greene helps with the U.S. history portion. As of March 28th of this year, they had over 3.3 million subscribers. He won the 2006 Prince Award for his debut novel, and in 2014 he was voted as one of Times Magazine's 100 Most Influential People. One of my favorite books John Greene wrote was Looking for Alaska. It's published in March of 2005. It's about a young boy, Miles Helter, being fascinated by famous last words and tired of his safe life at home. He leaves for boarding school, and he seeks for what a dying poet called The Great Perhaps. While Miles is at Culver Creek, he meets Alaska Young, who is very clever, funny, and a little bit screwed up. Alaska will then pull Miles into her labyrinth and catapult him into the Great Perhaps that he's seeking. John Greene's probably most famous book is The Fault in Our Stars. It's about a tumor shrinking miracle that brought Hazel a few years past. Hazel has never been anything but terminal, and she goes to a cancer kids support group, and she finds a beautiful, gorgeous man, Augustus Walters, and Hazel gets her story completely unwritten when she meets him. It is #1 New York Times bestseller, #1 Wall Street bestseller, #1 US Today bestseller, the bestseller for international in Times Magazine. It's the #1 fiction book of 2012, and it's the Today Book Club pick. It was copyrighted and published in 2012, and a favorite quote of mine, a quote or a passage, is sometimes you read a book and it fills you with this weird evangelical zeal, and you become convinced that the shattered world will never be put back together unless and until all living human beings read the book. The third and final book that I just got done reading is called Turtles All the Way Down. It's about a 16-year-old Asa never intended to pursue a mystery of a fugitive billionaire, Mr. Pickett, but there is a large reward, $100,000 reward at stake for her and her best friend Daisy. So together they kind of investigate and navigate and see what happens. They go to Russell Pickett's son, Davis, and then Asa tries to be a good daughter, a good friend, and a good student, and even a good detective while also living in the spiral of her own thoughts. A really good quote from the book is, the problem with happy endings is that they're either not really happy or not really endings. You know, in real life, some things get better and some things get worse, and eventually you die. It's a very deep quote, but I think that it makes you realize that you're really not living life unless you're living it how you want to live it. There are some really fun facts about John Greene that I didn't even know until I was researching him. He has obsessive compulsive disorder, as well as he suffered from depression, anxiety, and panic disorder, which really helped him with writing his books. His first book, Looking for Alaska, was written while he was a publishing assistant. And then in middle school, Greene said he was a regrettable combination, a nerd who was not a good student. He was also bullied and unhappy, and when he was 15, his parents sent him to Indian Springs, a boarding school outside Birmingham, Alabama, which really influenced Looking for Alaska in sending Miles to Culver Creek, the boarding school. The next one is about his YouTube Crash Course journey. Him and his brother Hank started sending each other video blogs on YouTube, talking about everything from haircuts to books to world affairs, which really led them to doing Crash Course, and that's how they kind of stayed in touch with each other. And then John Greene began his career working as a publishing assistant and production editor for Booklist, which is a review journal in Chicago. And then besides doing books, he also created radio essays for Chicago's public radio, NPR's All Things Considered. All in all, John Greene is really a down-to-earth writer who seems to put his writing and heart on his sleeve when writing. He uses his personal experiences to help him write, and his genres tend to be targeted towards the young adults, specifically teaching life lessons and how to deal with certain things such as sexuality, medical diagnoses, bullying. Um, while he does target young adults, I feel as though female teenagers are the main target of his audience. Um, Personally, I find his books are that of a modern Shakespeare, but that's because I'm really into young adult novels and teaching lessons. Um, Overall, I really highly recommend his pieces, but I may be biased as I am part of that audience that he targets. He's an author who is dedicated to what he writes. Most of his novels range from coming of age, mental illness, romance, juvenile relationships, as well as friendships.